Hey, what's happening guys? This is Orca from Orca's Gaming Corner, and these are my top 10 tips on how to play Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition for absolute beginners. My first tip: read and go through everything that the game offers. This can be in the form of text, dialogue, text description of items, your quest journal, and various books that you find. Books. Even if you don't want to read through every book, make sure that your main character opens all the books, because that leads to different mission updates and locations on maps and even new recipes for crafting. Read every description on weapons, armor, items and spells before you use them. This is a very important tip. I can't emphasize enough how important reading is in this game, especially for all you guys who want to start a new game and have never played something like Divinity Original Sin 2 or any CRPG. This is definitely not a game like COD or Fortnite. A lot of reading is needed, so please read. This is my second tip: choosing the game difficulty and character creation. Always play in classic mode if you are a beginner, as the story mode is pointless and it is extremely easy compared to the classic and the tactician mode. The tactician mode, on the other hand, will be too difficult for any newcomer to start. Character creation: keep it simple is what I advise. Pick one of the origin characters, as it is built for you and all the attribute points and skills are already assigned to the character. You can always try to create a character from scratch, but that can be a bit daunting for beginners, so I would always advise to go with origin characters. As you gain experience and progress in the game, later on you can always change the character to your liking. My third tip is use the map to its fullest extent. Use the map to its fullest extent. By this I mean cover the entire map inch by inch. Use all the waypoints to teleport. Teleporting makes traveling around the map a breeze. There will be some default place and location and quest markers. Use them to the fullest extent. Also, as the game does not show all objectives and places of interest, you can place custom markers for your ease of use later. Example, you find a high level dungeon, mark the location on the map so that you can get back to it when you are at the appropriate level. Similarly, you can do the same for different chests which you cannot open and different places which you cannot access at the current moment. My next tip is exploration. Explore the map as much as possible. Find all the caves, hidden locations, buried treasure, and go through all the dungeons that is there. This is just the first facet of exploration. Now the next thing in exploration is the speech options that you get when you talk to NPCs. Basically, there are three types of NPCs. Hostile NPCs, which are represented by red dots on the map. Then you have friendly NPCs, which are represented by green dots on the map. And you have neutral NPCs like innkeepers and traders, which are represented by yellow dots on the map. If you're guessing what the blue dots are, they are your party members. So you can speak to all these NPCs, and when you speak to them you will have different options. So you can try out different options of speech which can lead to different quests ending in a different way, or you are getting aligned to a different group, and also other things which you never know. So you have to try out each and every option that is there on the speech. Third and last facet of exploration is finding loot. Loot is there with everyone, from NPCs to party members. Enemies and objects like barrels, crates and treasure chests have loot of some kind. These may be used by the party or sold for gold. So exploration is one of the key points in enjoying Divinity Original Sin 2. My next tip is how to traverse different locations in Divinity. Well, the most important thing at an early stage in the game is Divinity uses a lot of verticality in its map. To reach those heights, either there are vines or stairs, but a lot of the times there will be nothing, and on such occasions you need to have some teleporting ability. You can use spells such as Phoenix Dive, Spread Your Wings, Cloak Dagger and Teleportation, and some of these spells are granted by special equipment, and one such equipment is there in Act 1. It is called the teleporting gloves. It is a must for every beginner to have the teleporting gloves. This set of gloves will help you move your party to different locations and traverse through all verticalities in the game. This is the simplest but one of the most important tips. Always quick save all the time. you need to quick save before each and every encounter, before every turn, before every speech, because you never know what will happen next, and if an unfavorable situation occurs, you can just reload and play. My next tip is combat mechanism. I feel that every newcomer and every veteran and everyone else who's playing this game needs to know what happens in combat. So be clear about the combat mechanism. It is a turn-based RPG. So when combat begins, you take your turn, then I take my turn, and then you take yours, and so on and so forth till one of us is dead. That is how the combat is played out. Now, how is it decided who goes first? It is decided by initiative points. Certain attribute points, skills, and items can give you more initiative points. For example, humans have the maximum initiatives in all races, and the attribute wit gives 1 initiative point for every wit point you add. Next, in a turn, you are allowed to perform certain number of actions decided by action points. These action points are required for doing anything and everything in the combat situation, from removing items from inventory, using spells, using your weapon, and moving around the map from one spot to another. So you need to use your action points wisely. Also, you need to remember that if there is a situation wherein one of your party members need not do anything, you do not have to use all the action points. A few of them will always get carried to the next turn. Lastly, one more thing that you need to know in combat mechanism is how the armor works in this game. There are 2 kinds of armor, magical and physical. Physical damage can only be blocked by physical armor, and magical damage can only be blocked by magical armor. That means if a character has only magical armor, it does not block any physical armor. So a good rule of thumb for this game is have balanced armor type for all your party members. Now on the offensive side, it's always good to have one of the damage types on the majority. Like, it is a good idea to have 70% physical damage output from your party and 30% magical damage output. That would always be better than going only one type of damage completely or going 50-50. And the last thing that you need to know for combat is healing. You don't need to have one special party member for only healing. That does not usually work out well in Divinity Original Sin 2. So it is always a better idea for each and every party member to have their own healing skills. Now that you know combat mechanism, let's move on to the next tip. That would be combat advantage. First one, you can gain an upper hand by having good unit placement. Usually it means spread out your party members. Don't get caught with all 4 of your party members in a cluster where you can be targets to enemy AoE spells. Second point, use the environment to your advantage. Example, place your archers and ranged characters at high ground on the map while in combat so that they can take the height advantage, and combined with perks like huntsmen, they can give devastating blows to the enemy. Third point to remember, always check and examine the abilities and attributes of each and every enemy while in fight or even before you enter a fight. That will give you a head start on how to plan and what to do and whom to disable throughout the fight. And lastly, combat advantage point number 4 would be get teleportation or mobility skills for each of your characters while in combat, because that allows you to move freely in the map in combat using the least number of action points, which is extremely essential. So that about does it for combat. Now my next tip is on skills and how to level up your character. So first we'll talk about skills. There are certain social and civilian skills. Persuasion is one of the most important ones, so probably best to max out on your main character as it is needed for all persuasion checks while you're in dialogue in game. The next one is bartering, so you can have that in your main character or one of the other characters. Bartering allows you to sell goods at a higher price and buy them at a lower price, which always makes sense. The next one is thievery, which you would probably give on your rogue character, because thievery allows you to lockpick properly, and pickpocket NPCs. Now the last two are Lucky Charm and Lore Master. Lore Master is quite important because it is needed to examine characters as well as it is needed to identify items that you pick up or loot that you pick up. Lucky Charm you can put on one of your characters and maximize it. Lucky Charm usually gets you better drops and significantly more drops while you play the game. So finally we reach my last tip. So before I start with the last tip, if you have already watched the video till now, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, Orca's Gaming Corner. Okay, so my last tip is leveling up your characters. So leveling up your character is a very subjective point, and once you are more accustomed with the game, you can make different builds and whatnot, combine different classes and do a whole lot. But for now, stick to leveling according to the class you have selected. Example, a knight should have high strength and constitution attribute points. Warfare is a good skill under combat ability to upgrade, and for weapon type, either two-handed weapons or one-handed weapon for sword and shield. Similarly, for a rogue character, finesse and wit and constitution would be the attribute points. I would concentrate on keeping finesse as the primary, and then scoundrel would be the primary skill tree, with thievery as civil talent and dual wielding for weapon bonus. For mage or wizard, you would go with high intelligence and a bit of wit and memory. Maybe have him use wand or staff, so choose accordingly as two-handed or one-handed. And there are many skills, so pyro and geo are good for beginners. For a ranger, again finesse, wit would be the main attribute points, but with skills such as huntsman and ranged weapon type, and maybe put a point on leadership for extra dodging. Now let's look at talent. For talent, some of the important ones are living armor opportunists for knights and melee characters, picture of health for party members that use high level of warfare skill, pawn and parry master for main damage dealer like a rogue, morning person and stench for weak characters, and all skilled up can be used by everyone as it gives 2 extra attribute points. Lone wolf and glass cannon are the some other good options that can be used according to the character build. This is how you can level up your characters. There is always a respec mirror after the first act in Lady Vengeance, so you can always respec as much as you want. So as you guys are newcomers, I would like to give you a bonus point. First of all, there's a lockdown going on throughout the world, and Divinity Original Sin is one of the perfect games to get into right now because you have ample amount of time and you can think around it and play properly. The first thing I would like to say, other than all these technical tips, is that when you play the game as a beginner, do not try to rush through the game. Do not try to make exquisite builds and all that. Just try to enjoy the game. That will make sure that you get into the game properly and you like the game more, and later on you can go in for different kinds of builds and different difficulties. So that's all for now, folks. Have a good day, and this is Orca signing out.